À. Good evening. Welcome today. I'm going to switch to Spanish. Bienvenidos todos a la charla The Power of Learning English. Para nosotros es muy gratificante tenerles con nosotros la noche de hoy. Y nos acompaña nuestro aliado estratégico National Geographic Learning, Cengage Group. La idea de invitarlos y de generar este espacio el día de hoy es justamente que veamos desde otra perspectiva la importancia y el poder del aprendizaje de una segunda lengua como el inglés y las oportunidades y las puertas que esto abre no solamente en el mundo laboral nacional, sino internacional. Entonces, los invito a buenas noches a todos los que están conectados también, que nos acompañan desde la sede Meta, los estudiantes de la modalidad virtual, bienvenidos a todos y esperamos que sea un espacio muy enriquecedor para todos. Les quiero presentar el día de hoy a Fabián García, gerente en Latinoamérica de National Geographic Learning. Bienvenido, Fabián.
Gracias. Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Fabián García. I'm the Regional Sales Manager for South America for National Geographic Learning, and it's an honor to be with you. Today we have this presentation to reflect on the importance of learning English and speaking English in your professional career. And we have this interview that we prepared especially for you with Tercio Garcia, who is the Vice President of Finance and Operations for Cengage Group for Latin America. But before starting with the interview, I'd like to share a short video about National Geographic Learning and what we do at National Geographic Learning. Can you help me, Tercio, with the video, please?
Sure.
I think you have to share the screen with sound.
Once again, we'll get there. All right, sharing sound. Here we go. You know if it works now.
No, it doesn't have sound.
No,
No.
I apologize. I swear to God, I have clicked on. What about now? Yes, no?
No, not yet.
Jesus. This is challenging. It shouldn't be. Let's do it again. Let's see. This why it is coming.
Yeah, we tried it before and it worked.
Yeah. Hold on. Bear with us. We'll get through it. Make it work. What about now?
Yes.
All right. Persistency.
In this century, global awareness is a requirement. And at National Geographic Learning, we believe you can't understand the world if you don't experience it. In our learning materials, we want students to experience their world, and photography helps us to achieve that. A great photograph can transport viewers to a different place, a different time, a different culture, a different experience of life that they otherwise would not have. It delivers the world to the reader and teaches in the most fundamental of ways. It opens the viewer's eyes. A great photograph also stimulates curiosity, which is critical to learning. Show someone a photograph of something amazing or beautiful or mysterious or strange or just unfamiliar but real, and that person will want to learn about it. And when people want to learn, they do. We look for photographs that will create awe in learners, awe and the desire to learn. We also look for photographs that will prepare learners for the real world that they will have to navigate. Ultimately, we ask teachers and learners and everyone to simply look at our publications to see if we have achieved our objectives. Like photographs, we believe they speak for themselves. With incredible National Geographic photography and video, we can bring the world to the classroom and the classroom to life.
And this is what we do at National Geographic Learning. We work to bring the word to the classroom and the classroom to life. And now for this session, what we have prepared is to have a 25, 30 minutes presentation by Tercio with some questions that we have already prepared. And after the Tercio presentation, the idea is that you can share your questions and your doubts about Tercio's comments and presentation. I'm not going to read his biodata because if not, I'm going to spoil the whole presentation. Welcome, Tercio, again.
All right. Thank you very much, Fabian. Thank you, Diana, and everybody at UCompensar. The ones that are there live in present physically and also the ones online. It is both a pleasure and a privilege to be able to speak to you all today.
First of all, where are you located now?
I'm located in São Paulo, Brazil, and that's where I'm saluting you from this evening, which I understand is a cold evening in Bogota, right?
It is.
So I hope everybody feels warm and we can have a great conversation.
Thank you.
All right, sure. So, how did I realize that learning English was going to be essential in my professional growth? I think that from an early age, I figured that I wanted to, get a better future and look at the only way that I could make it was focusing on education, right? I also noticed that many of the people that I had as, you can say, role models, right, would have some special or differentiating skills. And certainly one of them that seemed to be very important was to be able to fluently speak English as a language, right? But it wasn't really until I had the opportunity to start working for a large US multinational company that I finally understood that I would need this ability for my professional growth. And this was the company that I worked for back in 1987. Most of you must know Hewlett-Packard. And this logo may not be familiar because it has changed a lot throughout all those years, but this was the logo back in 1987, all right? Okie dokie. So I was asked to tell about my experience in learning English, and we all have to, be aware that, again, we're talking about the 80s. So probably most of you or many of you weren't even born back then, right? So it was a fun experience in the sense that these were the resources that we have available back then. Like this is a K7 cassette player for the ones that have never seen one. And we used to put a cassette player in there and play back and forth. So we could listen to music and try to figure out the lyrics in English. So this was very popular back then in most of the English classes we would take. And if we wanted to add video, then we would need a VHS player and a monitor to be able to, again, see any kind of video that would give us also the opportunity to try and figure out what was being spoken. And this was one of the very tactics that were used back then. I actually went through a number of schools, and it wasn't until I found a school that had this special teacher that was able to, get the best out of me in the sense of using materials that were inspiring, using a method that would, allow me to do what I thought was the most important, which was use the class time to become comfortable in speaking in English, right? Not only learning all that you need to learn, but also, again, be able to actually communicate. So far, so good. You guys can hear me well? All good?
Yes, we do.
Okay, if there are any questions or comments, you don't have to wait through the end. We can interact as you wish. So, And then, how was this journey from growing up in the worker class neighborhood, which is the reality for many of us in our cities in Latin America, and becoming a financial director of a multinational company like Cengage Learning today, right? I can tell you this is well close to where I was born in São Paulo in the end of the 60s. So this in the 70s, was my childhood. And that's how it looked like in Sao Paulo back then. And I think it's probably not much different on how it looked like for other places in Latin America, or even like Bogota, right? But again, I felt that the only way that I would probably get a better future was through education and through learning English. I started working at a very early age, at age 14. And by the time I was 19, after a number of experiences, it's when I joined Hewlett Packard, which I already told you all. That was, a great experience. I started my career as an accounting clerk. Back then, I had done vocational studies as part of what would be the high school in accounting, and that allowed me to get a job in the area. And it was, a very productive, almost 23-year career with HP from 1987 to 2009, where I had the opportunity of growing, from time to time in different positions, getting promotions, and until I participated in a very key project in the career, which was the fusion or acquisition of Compaq by HP, which gave me the opportunity to then, in 2003, coming back to São Paulo, Brazil. Why do I say coming back? Because HP gave me the opportunity to actually move to the US back in 1996. Well, when I moved to the US, I was the happiest person because I said, well, moving to the United States is certainly going to make me finally a fluent English speaker, right? So, and that's what I wanted, to learn English and to become fluent and, and continue growing my career. But where do I move to in the US? Miami. So, as you most of you may know, Miami is very popular by its Latin population, and this is a picture of Calle Ocho, where you can find many of the stores where they will even post a sign saying, "Come on in, we do speak English." So that gives you an idea that, in fact, I went there to learn English, and I end up learning Spanish much faster than English. So it was a fun thing, right? That happened to me, but again, it gave me the opportunity to being closer. One anecdote that I have for you as part of this time that I lived in the US is that I knew how to communicate in English mostly for the finance terms, right? So I could get along well with the terms at work, right? But whenever I needed to talk to people outside of the work environment, I thought I figured that I was missing a lot of vocabulary, right? And that was limiting me big time in terms of getting more acquainted to the culture and making more friends and relationships and so on. The one anecdote, and why am I showing this picture here, is because when I moved there, there was a problem with my kitchen sink, right? It was the faucet was leaking, and I figured that I needed to communicate this to the landlord. But out of the 5 words that I need to manage to tell the landlord, I only basically knew kitchen, right? So I didn't know how to say, listen, sir, there is a leak in the kitchen, the faucet has a problem. So all I knew to say back then was basically kitchen. So that gave me an idea of how far away I was from being fluent in English. And again, this is back in 1996. So for all of you, there was no Google back there, right? So I had to figure out it by myself. All right. And so after this experience, I also had a great opportunity while being in the US, in Miami, which was get an MBA sponsored by the company, and that was at the Florida International University at North Miami Beach. And once I got to the university, then I started getting more opportunities to speak and get acquainted with the language, having to read much more into technical terms, and also interacting with fellow students, which also helped me a lot to improve my ability to speak English. All right. Well, after I came back to Brazil, I worked for HP another 6 years through 2009. Like I said, I finally left the company, very grateful for all that I had there. Then I worked 2 years for Kodak as finance director for the Southern Cone. And after those 2 years with Kodak, I finally joined Cengage back in 2013, almost 10 years ago, through the hands of an old friend, Fernando Valenzuela, who was the president for Latin America back then. And here I am, very happy with this opportunity and to be in a company that has a great culture and that, again, is all about education and the power of learning. All righty. So, what was the role that English played? I think it was very critical and in many senses. First of all, not only professionally, but also personally, right? It gave me this opportunity to more effectively communicate with people from around the globe. So no matter if you speak English, French, Portuguese, Spanish, Deutsch, whatever, English is the language that basically brings everybody to the same level and to the same page, and we can communicate, right, independent of their nationality, their background, or so on. Just to give you an example, in my MBA class, we had 43 students of 16 different nationalities. So there was people from all around the globe, and we could all communicate, of course, because of the English language. And then again, for making friends and other relationships outside of work, it was very critical as well at the place that I used to live with my family. When we think about the professional impact that it has had, it's huge, right? Because, working for a multinational company, being able to communicate in English gave me the ability to many times be part of special projects, right? Or programs that otherwise I wouldn't have had the opportunity, right? I truly believe that sometimes some of these key projects that the company had and that I was able to participate in a very relevant role wasn't necessary because I knew more than my peers in terms of the financial expertise, but rather because I had the ability to communicate in English, something that, for some of my peers was not a reality. So that was a differentiator, and it ended up giving me different and improved opportunities throughout the career. So I think this is basically what I can tell was very important in terms of having the English and in my career, right? One of the key projects that I have touched before was the HP Compaq merger, which I participated as part of the clean room. It was a team of 300 employees from HP, 300 employees from Compaq, a total of 600 employees for companies that add up to over 180,000 employees. So we were, a select group that was participating and making sure that the merger would be successful even before it was announced or approved. And again, it was only possible because English was required, and I was able to participate. All right. Hope everybody's still awake. And I guess we basically come to this question, right? What if one of you in the audience would come to my door or to our door at the company requesting to be part of our teams, right? What skills we would be interested in? There is no doubt that
Tercio.
for find, sí,
Ah,
yes.
como tenemos varias personas que no hablan inglés, y esta es una de las preguntas más interesantes, ¿no? ¿Qué es lo que
Ajá.
buscaría en una persona o qué buscarías en una persona
Ok.
como director financiero? ¿Qué habilidades, si golpean la puerta de tu oficina? Creo que a
Vale.
partir de ahora lo podemos hacer en español para que todos puedan entenderlo. ¿Qué te parece?
Bien. No, claro que sí, con gusto.
Hablo un español espectacular, Tercio, así que
Bueno,
también lo van a
es el
disfrutar.
efecto Miami. Muy bien. Bueno, entonces si alguien viene y, pues quiere unirse a nuestro equipo, ¿cuáles son los conocimientos o habilidades que estaríamos buscando o que estaríamos muy interesados? Sin duda que pues en finanzas hay que tener una mirada de análisis, ¿no? Pues ser muy prolijo con los números, y lógicamente tener ese gusto, ¿no? Por los controles, por la parte de compliance y lo demás. Yo lo que siempre me gusta decir es que creo que durante nuestras vidas, pues personales y también laborales, por supuesto, vamos llenando nuestra caja de herramientas, ¿no? Y cada habilidad nueva que conquistamos, que aprendemos, que pues de tanto y principalmente que hacemos, ¿no? Por experiencia, la vamos sumando a esta caja de herramientas, ¿no? Y durante nuestra carrera y nuestras vidas vamos siempre llegar a esta caja de herramientas y poder sacar de ahí lo que nos lleva adelante. Entonces siempre es bueno estar en un lugar donde pues nuestra caja de herramientas puede ser totalmente utilizada porque ahí nos sentiremos muy útiles, productivos y relevantes, ¿no? Entonces, adicionalmente, pues a esto que decía, pues de los skills analíticos, conocimiento tecnológico también es muy importante cada vez más porque cada vez más tenemos herramientas tecnológicas que nos apoyan en nuestra labor del día con día, mucho más allá del Excel, que muchos evidentemente conocen, que tenga la capacidad de resolución de problemas, que pues esté muy conectado con la importancia de colaborar, ¿no? De trabajar evidentemente de manera colaborativa, que tenga una comunicación efectiva, asertiva, pues principalmente pues para los números es muy crítico que no haya dudas, ¿no? Y definitivamente pues con todo esto sería también un beneficio muy importante que pudiera hablar inglés, ¿no? ¿Por qué? Porque estamos en una compañía multinacional norteamericana donde mucha de nuestra labor del día con día tiene un impacto, un reflejo en lo que pasa en nuestra matriz y en Estados Unidos y muchas interacciones, ya sean por proyectos específicos, ya sean por las mismas actividades rutinarias del día con día que a lo mejor lo tienen que validar en Estados Unidos o que tienen que pues alguna regla contable que se tiene que implementar, entonces hay mucha comunicación en el día con día y ahí como les mencionaba, pues la ventaja de poder hablar inglés, pues muchas veces da a uno posibilidades diferentes y mayores al que no tiene esa capacidad. Entonces yo creo que iría un poco por esa línea. Y bueno, ¿qué más les digo? Pues si nada más pueden recordar de la charla, les pongo aquí la pareja de Golden Retrievers que habitan nuestro hogar, porque nadie puede resistir a un Golden Retriever, así que ya se acordarán de algo. Y cuando vean a Meu y Apolo, pues se acuerden del poder del aprendizaje y acuérdense de que vale mucho la pena invertir en eso. Y principalmente, pues yo diría que lo más importante para hablar el inglés es darse al trabajo de hablar, ¿no? Efectivamente, muchas veces tenemos miedo, estamos preocupados de cómo nos van a juzgar o si nos van a entender o qué, pero la verdad es que la única manera de poder ir mejorando y creciendo es haciéndolo, es hablando, ¿no? Así que bueno, un verdadero gusto y pues creo que tenemos un buen tiempo aquí para preguntas y comentarios, ¿no? Así que adelante, por favor. Tú me dices, Fabián.
Ahí está. Decíamos que aquí tenemos un espacio para hacer preguntas, ya sea aquí o las personas que están conectadas. No sé si alguien quiere consultar algo.
Okay, I would like to ask a question. Yo quisiera hacerles una pregunta. Y es una pregunta
Claro
que
que
yo
sí.
vi. It's a question that I saw on the board. And what is the role of English in your life? And how important is that role for you? Think about it. What is the role of English in my life? Is it just something that I have to do? Or how important is that role in my life? So I don't know how many of you have traveled abroad, but I have. And the only language that has saved me, because I don't speak French and other languages like German, but English was the language. So who's the brave one who wants to answer this? A ver, ¿quién es el valiente?
Puede ser en español.
Bueno, entendí que la pregunta es como qué tan importante para mí el inglés como en el diario vivir, ¿no? En la vida. Y profesionalmente es muy importante porque eso es lo que mencionaba la persona que nos dio la capacitación y es poder abrirse al mundo, ¿no? Es no solamente ser un profesional en la carrera en la que estás, sino darle ese plus de la cual hoy en día en un mundo global es tan importante. Y importante es que el inglés es como el top, ¿no? Y él no lo mencionaba. Hay muchas otras lenguas, francés, italiano, pero si manejas el inglés vas a tener las puertas abiertas.
Buenas noches. Pues para mí el inglés es solo un paso. Yo quiero ser profesor de coreano. Pues para mí el inglés en mi vida diaria es solo un paso.
Qué bien.
Es como la primera empapada.
¿Alguien tiene alguna pregunta para Tercio? Puede ser en español. Portugués, español o inglés.
Mr. Tercio.
Yes.
Okay, can you listen?
Yes.
Okay, thank
Go
you.
ahead,
Mr.
please.
Tercio, imagine you have a little student from a very poor public school, could be anywhere in Latin America, you know. Imagine you have that boy or that little girl in front of you as maybe as an English teacher or as a teacher. What would you say to that guy, to that little boy or to that little girl to try to sell the idea what is the real power of learning English for this century, for the current moment we are living in the world? What would you say to that little boy?
Sure. Thank you. I think I would do it in the proper language for a kid. Would tell them that it would make the world larger for them, right? It would probably open the doors everywhere and would give them the ability to learn more, to be more, to do more, just because of the learning the language. But again, I guess I would have to have the pedagogy to talk to a small kid. with the right words, but it's basically to say that to incent them to actually speak, which is, again, in little kids is easier. And I can tell you, because when I moved to the US with my family, my older son back then was only 4 or 5, right? And by the time we were all concerned about speaking English, in a wrong manner, while he was a little kid that had never spoken English and was playing with other kids without a problem, right? So they were playing among the Brazilian, Colombians, Mexicans, and Americans. And if it was a ball that was in the play, the American would say ball, the Brazilian would say bola, and the others would say pelota, but they would play without a problem. And then all of a sudden they were all saying ball, bola, and pelota. So, so the kids have that ability. But I would say basically that it would make the word bigger for them.
Yo tengo una pregunta. Preguntaba al profe hace un momento qué le dirías a un niño y pues acabas de responderlo muy asertivamente. Estamos en un auditorio con estudiantes universitarios que tienen dentro de su pensum una línea de inglés importante y que pues están interesados algunos en el aprendizaje de una segunda lengua. Hoy en día en el mundo laboral, pues tú estás en un cargo internacional, en un cargo financiero, tu profesión no es per se enseñar inglés o trabajar con la enseñanza, el aprendizaje del inglés, pero ¿qué le dirías tú? Y acá están ellos y hay muchos más conectados en otra ciudad, en la otra sede de Meta y también en YouTube desde sus casas. ¿Cuál es el mensaje hoy desde donde están ellos, que es preparándose para de pronto están estudiando finanzas y negocios internacionales, comunicación social, tenemos algunas facultades acá en la universidad? ¿Cuál es el mensaje de pronto para ellos hoy en proyección a su vida laboral y profesional?
Muy bien, pues muchas gracias. Pues una vez más es un gusto hablar a tantos jóvenes y la verdad es que yo diría que primero que tienen que hablar, ¿no? Para poder llegar a esa eficiencia o proficiencia en el idioma hay que hablar. Podemos sí asistir a una serie de Netflix o una película o lo que nos guste o escuchar una música y ahí vamos a aprender algo seguramente, pero no es hasta que podamos hablar que estaremos comunicando. Más allá de eso, diría también que pues en sus carreras, cualquiera que sean, pero puedo usar finanzas como el ejemplo, ¿no? Muchos de los materiales incluso que puedes aprender a lo mejor están en inglés porque es el idioma universal, ya sea una nueva regla contable, ya sea una cuestión de tecnología moderna, podrás encontrar mucho más material a lo mejor en inglés que en su idioma local. Entonces eso también le permite ampliar conocimiento por el simple hecho de poder leer y comunicar en otro idioma, en ese caso el inglés. Entonces, son muchas las oportunidades y los beneficios que vienen con ello, porque como decía, alguna vez en la carrera podrán encontrarse con esa situación donde están en condiciones de igualdad con sus compañeros, compañeras de trabajo en términos técnicos de la carrera, de la función. Pero si uno tiene el inglés y el otro no lo tiene, pues si hay un proyecto especial, un programa, cual sea, un viaje o como sea, pues evidentemente que se le dará la oportunidad al que tiene las mejores condiciones, que puede comunicarse en inglés. Entonces piensen en eso realmente como una ventaja competitiva porque sí lo es, ¿no?
Gracias, Tercio.
Gracias.
De otros países, está Lourdes Páez, y ella dice, Lo que nos has platicado en el aspecto profesional es muy importante, pero ¿qué satisfacciones te ha traído en la vida personal el saber y hablar inglés?
Pues yo creo que, gracias Lourdes, yo creo que la satisfacción más grande es poder hacer nuevas amistades, ¿no? Conocer de otras realidades, de otros pueblos, de otras culturas a través del inglés, porque como decía, en la época que vivimos allá en Estados Unidos, en la Florida, conocemos gente de todas partes del mundo, literalmente, o sea, gente de Australia, de Nueva Zelanda, de África, de países de África, de toda Europa. Entonces, realmente, y bueno, países de Europa que, por ejemplo, no hablan inglés, ¿no? Como Alemania, como y otras partes, ¿no? Entonces, esto creo que es la mayor satisfacción y también a la vez ver mismo un programa de televisión, ya sea, vamos a hablar de National Geographic, ¿no? El canal de National Geographic y poder escucharlo en inglés, que es el idioma original, y entenderlo y bien, pues es una satisfacción también, ¿no? Entonces yo creo que va más por esa línea de las relaciones que permite de los contactos que puedes hacer, las amistades y disfrutar, ¿no? También.
¿No? Lo que
¿Quién
podemos
más?
hacer... No, no tenemos más preguntas. Tú, Tercio, ¿puedes compartir el videíto que tenemos de cierre con audio, porfa? Que es como una
Claro que
invitación
sí,
para
con gusto.
todos.
Voy a intentar con audio, a ver si me sale de
Con-
primera, si no me lo dice. Ok.
This is not a border or a frame. It does not bind us or limit us. It is a portal, an entrance to the whole world. Every place, story, and passion lies right through there. This is where explorers and innovators go. This is the threshold of the next chapter of humanity. Join us. And together we will do more than see the world. We'll change it.
Y con esta charla es la invitación que queríamos hacerles a ustedes, que se unan, que podemos cambiar el mundo y que aprender inglés, estudiar inglés, hablar inglés, nos ayuda a poder llegar a nuevas oportunidades, no solo en la vida personal, sino también tener éxito en nuestras carreras, en el desarrollo profesional. Muchas gracias por venir hoy.
Que tengan buena noche. Muchas gracias. Sigan disfrutando de la Semana de la Innovación y el Emprendimiento.
Muchas gracias,
Hasta
Tercio.
luego. Gracias, Tercio.
Muchísimas gracias a todos. Un saludo cordial desde Brasil.
Bye, bye.